Hey guys, this is me yet again doing another quick video. As I said before, I don't have like a set schedule to do these things. I'm just kind of going to do them off the top of my head whenever I kind of want to get something off my mind or just to show you guys stuff that are available from Truthful Comics or whatever project that I'm working on as well. And this week, I kind of wanted to go over stuff that Truthful Comics has published. I just kind of want to give you like a brief overview of what's available and kind of talk about briefly what's going to be available in the future. So I just want to quickly start off with Nevermind. So Nevermind was the original web comic that I started doing when I first started doing web comics before I even dared to do Fred Peterson, the Mighty Warlord, as a web comic as well. So Nevermind is really a web strip that is very near and dear to me. It's the one that kind of, in a sense, got my feet wet in terms of comic book making, comic strip making, producing a digital and a later on published comic as well. I self-published the original 12 strips of Nevermind back in Puerto Rico when brother Manuel Carmona did his own small comic book activity in his hometown in a basketball court, which was very cool. It was one of my first experiences of going kind of solo on a comic book activity. Previous to that and afterwards, I would do it mostly with other colleagues that were in local comics as well. So that was a great experience. So to kind of briefly talk about Nevermind, Nevermind is a autobiographical strip in the same vein of Tom Beeland's True Story, Swear to God, which kind of inspired this web strip, and also American Splendor and Optic Nerve, which were very influential while I was growing up as well, and kind of rediscovering that love for indie comics. Like, I've always had a love for independent comic books, but it really wasn't until I was more of an adult that I appreciated it even more, and it also helped me kind of channel a lot of my creativity into different areas as well and allowed me to be more experimental as well. So Nevermind is kind of a culmination and a love letter to all that. Right here, I have the Nevermind, the original 12 strip collection. Let me get a little bit of that glare away from there so you can see the cover a little better. So the original 12 strip collection, this is the first time I reprint the original self-published 12 strips that I did for that convention. Um, as I said before, for a lot of you people that don't know, uh, the rest of the Nevermind series I was never able to publish because all the original strips and all the saved strips of the actual size and whatnot were destroyed in various ways by accident. Most of it was because of natural disasters. Back when I was living in Puerto Rico, there was hurricanes, tropical storms, and that would really mess things up. So a lot of the original artwork was lost. The hard discs where the digitized versions of it were pretty much fried as well, either due to a power failure. Even if I had a power supply that would help with the electricity problems. Usually it wouldn't help much, so those were lost as well, unfortunately. The only reason I was even able to do this here was because I was going through some old websites that I used to publish things, and I actually found a PDF of the original copy of the first 12 strips of Nevermind. So what I did was that I took that PDF, and since it was in such a high resolution, I was able to work around and edit it so it could actually look better and have a bigger display on this reprint that I did here. So I just put on a new cover, and here we are. Like, just to like kind of have a short look at it. I'm sorry for the shadows. Again, this is kind of impromptu. Like, all this was done through Kablam, and it never ceases to amaze me how professional their paper quality is and the print quality of the comics are. As you can see, the original strips were very, very sketchy. Like, I don't know if it's picking up on the camera too well. On print, it looks pretty good. It looks like I actually sketched on the paper. And most of the strips were hand lettered back then. And if you want to check this out, of course, the original strips were posted on the Truthful Comics website. You could go to www.truthfulcomics.com, where you can see the original web comics for this and all the other web comics I published as well. If you wish to purchase it, you can do so either physically or the digital download over at indieplanet.com. I'm actually going to go ahead real quick and put the link in the comments. Like, if you want to buy the physical copy, it'll be $2, and the digital download will be $1. And of course, if you wish to if you're satisfied with just reading it at the website, definitely go give the website a click and check it out. I wouldn't mind at all. That would be actually pretty cool. It's all about them views, my friends, and those clicks. Wepa, hello Armando. Hope everything's going well. You're partly guilty of kind of reigniting my wanting to do more videos again. So if anyone wants to blame somebody, Armando's to blame. So I just posted in the links, in the comments, I'm sorry, the link for. Oh yeah, I will definitely get to Stupid the Cat in a little bit also. Like, I'm just going to do like a brief carousel of the comics that's been published by Truthful Comics. Like, Stupid the Cat is definitely one of my personal favorite ones because it is a love letter to one of my first loves in comic books and animations with Heathcliff the Cat and Garfield. Right, so this was Nevermind, the original 12 strips. It has a brand new cover compared to the original that it had. If I'm not mistaken, you can see the original cover as well at truthfulcomics.com when you go to read the actual webcomic. And here is Nevermind, the Truthful Comics edition. And when I talk about Truthful Comics edition, um, that is actually a kind of a remake of the originals, since I'm not able to publish the original comics as they were when they first came out, as I stated before, because those original pages were lost. All I have are the internet size of the strips. So if I were to blow that up and sell that as a regular mini comic or a regular sized comic book, since it's way below even standard definition. It's just internet friendly, so it is going to look horrible. And I'm not going to put something out there that is just going to be disrespectful for anyone that's going to want to buy the comic. Like, I want to appreciate readers more than that. So with pretty much all the properties that I have that I can't print out because I lost all those files, I'm just redoing them from scratch because that's the simple thing to do at the moment. So this is the brand new cover for the Nevermind Truthful Comics edition. And here it looks a lot more sleek compared to the original. The lettering is done digitally. Sorry, I can't speak today. I, I did it digitally as well. So it looks a lot better. Let me just do a small comparison between the first original strip and the remake. Everything looks much clearer. I decided to kind of work the angles as well to make the presentation a little nicer, a little more dynamic. It's still the same story in its heart. I just kind of went back and just brushed up a little bit on the dialogue to make it flow better, the pacing better, make the artwork more clear as well as the lettering too. So basically doing all the things I wish I knew how to do back when I originally did it, in a sense. So it is literally the original 12 strips, but remade and updated with the updated art, some updated dialogue if it was needed. And to me, this just looks beautiful. Not to sound like an egomaniac, but again, the page quality makes the artwork and everything look better than it really even should be. To be honest, like I feel like a little kid looking at this, and it's kind of like what we were talking about, Armando in his video and myself in my other video, that you have to have that confidence, man, because it's not going to sell itself if you don't have that confidence. You work on your thing, you do your thing, and you got to put it out there. You got to believe in it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it works, more power to all of us. It's all about those comics. So these are the Truthful Comics editions of Nevermind. Eventually, I am going to be redoing the rest of the seasons. There were 5 seasons of Nevermind. If you want to, I call them seasons because I would do 12 strips, then take a break to do other projects, and then come back to Nevermind and do an additional 12 strips. So I was doing that on and off for quite a few years, like maybe almost like 8, 9 years that I was doing Nevermind. In between breaks and hiatuses due to either because it was burnout, because sometimes I did have some burnout doing a lot of things at the same time, not just the comic book, but just life in general. Sometimes you kind of eventually get a little bit of burnout, so that would happen sometimes. But I would always come back to doing comics, and I would always come back to doing Nevermind. So right now, the original 12 strips was already finished. It was already published. You can also check it out at truthfulcomics.com if you want to read the updated version as well. Let me just put the link real quick for Nevermind as well. Wow, I feel like such a boomer right now. I accidentally closed the tab. Like, I'm still getting used to kind of this setting here, as it's been a long time since I've been doing videos, and I never really did any live streaming before. Actually, the live stream I did last week was pretty much my first official live stream I've done on my own. So let's all learn together. There's no mistakes, only happy accidents, okay? That was my Bob Ross moment right there. Anything can happen live. All right, and here we go with the link for Nevermind Truthful Comics Edition Season 1. So that's going to be posted in the comments as well. So now that I got you all up to speed on Nevermind, let's move on to what Armando was speaking earlier in the comments. Here is Stupid the Cat. This, as I said before earlier in the stream, this is really my love letter to Heathcliff the Cat, Garfield, all those strips when I was a little kid. I just loved them. Like I would even like try to replicate the scenes of those animations with my toys, and I would try to like gather all my toy cars and kind of put them together to kind of resemble the junkyard where the gang of cats that were Heathcliff friends would live in the animation, and of course the flying cars and whatnot. So Stupid the Cat essentially was a character I created when I was in 7th grade. It was one of the first characters I created. It was actually for a school project. The class had to make a mock newspaper. So, of course, when the group was made, immediately everyone turned to me and said, "You're in charge of the comic," because everyone knew I was a comic book geek and all my notebooks were littered with drawings here and there. So that was like a no brainer. They were like, okay, you do the comic. That was the first thing that they discussed. And then they went on to discuss everything else on who's going to do what. So Stupid the Cat, along with another web comic that I'm doing, which is in Spanish called Webamani Webito, those were literally the first characters I ever created in comic book form. So Stupid the Cat kind of stayed in my consciousness ever since, but I never really could find a way to really make a comic of it or do something with that idea till eventually one day I had finished a handful of projects, a handful of web comics. So I kind of had that extra time, and I had coincidentally actually found that old newspaper, and I believe I posted that page on Deviant Art when Deviant Art was still like a big thing. Like it's still a relatively big thing, but that was the time before Facebook was big. It was a time before Instagram was even around. Twitter was a new thing still. So, Deviant Art was like the main place to put up artwork, and there wasn't as much competition as there is now. So I saw the character again, and I kind of felt like, I kind of really want to do more with this cat. And out of that came Stupid the Cat, Ain't It the Life. That was a 12-strip webcomic I did of this cat. It's basically a cat whose name is Stupid, and he does cat things, really. And you kind of like delve into the mind of this cat. Right? Give me one brief moment while I hydrate a little sec. No, the weather's getting warmer, guys. Like, don't forget to hydrate properly every now and then. I'm becoming the meme of I'm here to remind you to drink water. So drink some water now. Anyway, here is Stupid the Cat. So it is also called Truthful Comics Edition because when I moved from Puerto Rico to New York, I was still in that process of doing the webcomic of Stupid the Cat. And unfortunately, um, the radiator in the apartment, one of the pipes burst, and there was a flood in the room. And those first few strips of Stupid the Cat got destroyed. And it made me pretty upset, to be honest. Like, it was the first three strips, and I was kind of happy with the reception it was getting. I was happy with the style I was doing at the time for the strip, and it just burnt me out. Like, I put in the work to do this strip, and then something happens again that I lose original artwork again. I was just like, I was not having it. And it wasn't until like a couple of years that I actually decided to sit down and actually, as part of one of the challenges of the 100 days of making comics, I sat myself down and I said, stop your moping, stop your whining, and finish what you started. And that's what I did. I eventually finished the 12 strips. And this published version is called Truthful Comics Edition because I redid the first three strips of the comic. So this is actually the latest publication that came out last month. And here is the original first strip. I put it like as the inset of the brief intro. And here's the new page one. And kind of similar to the Nevermind strips, sideways, kind of like the OG scripts of back or strips of back then. And what I did is that I did more high resolution scans of the originals. So page 4 onwards is actually the original strips. And this in here actually caught me off guard because this is actually a promotion for a different comic that is being promoted by Indie Planet, I guess. I have no idea. Like, I never saw anything like that on the website as announced as maybe I missed the announcement or something that they are going to start doing that, but it looks kind of cool. So if you order Stupid the Cat, you can definitely check out whatever inset they put there. I really love the paper quality of these comics, man. And of course, the little end thing is called litter box because it is a cat. So there it is. It's 12 pages of strips. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily do a season 2 of Stupid the Cat. I do have some ideas. If you guys want to read more Stupid the Cat, let me know, and I'll definitely do more web comics and eventually post stuff as well. In the meantime, let me just put the link for this one. And by the way, I mentioned the price for the original 12 strips of Nevermind. That was $2 physical comic and $1 digital comic. The Nevermind Truthful Comics edition. My name's still live. It's kind of going in and out all of a sudden. But if you're still seeing me, the Nevermind Truthful Comics Edition is the same as the original 12 strip is $2 physical, $1 digital download. With Stupid the Cat, however, that one's a little different since this one is full color. So the physical copy is going to be $3, but the digital download is still going to be $1 as well. I'm just going to go ahead and paste that link in the comments as well. Thank you so much for the support, Armando. Like, the link is there in the comments now, and if you want to just read the webcomic, you can do so also at the Truthful Comics website. Like, everything is pretty much available on the Truthful Comics website to check out too if you want to like check out the products before purchasing them or to get an idea of what they are. So these are the 3 mini comics that has been on sale for the past year now. Like my goal is to keep releasing these mini comics while the major comics come out, like the Manuel's Project New Wave, the Mighty Warlord Truthful Comics edition, and whatnot. Just kind of keep interest out there, and also these mini comics are so much fun to do, and it really serves as an outlet for creativity as well. I've always loved reading mini comics and the more experimental comics as well. So it really is kind of like a nod and an homage to those that came before me that inspired me to do all this, and hopefully inspire more people to do these eventually as well. So let's move on to more of the stuff. As you can see, these are just markers like that sometimes bleed through when I'm sketching on this mini lap table there. And now moving on to the Mighty Warlord. These were the comics that were originally published before Truthful Comics was formed. So a little backstory on that. When I did Fred Peterson, the Mighty Warlord, I was, of course, on my own with this studio name that I still use kind of as the sub studio within Truthful Comics, which is Prospecto Arts, which is the comics that I would do all throughout high school, along with my childhood friend as well, that helped create a lot of characters, and I helped develop a lot of his characters as well. So when Warlord was starting to gain more readership on the different forums I was updating the comic in, I would be approached by different people to kind of join their studio or their clique or whatever. And I kind of bounced around in one of them. And then I left that studio and formed Studio 22 with Rigo Scorp Jimenez. So for a while there, I was with Rigo and other creators as well. And the first comic I published with Studio under Studio 22 was the prologue of Fred Peterson, the Mighty Warlord, which is kind of like a special edition because I did a new cover compared to the original prologue, and I also added bonus scenes as well into the story. And this was my very first comic that I published through Kablam. So let me just go ahead and kind of flip a little bit through it. Since it was in black and white, I kept it in black and white. Here's the Prospecto Arts logo along with the Studio 22 webcomics logo. Here's the original cover of the previous printing, the third printing of the prologue. And again, it's just basically introducing two of the four main characters of Warlord, which is Fred Peterson, Jane Jackson, Cheryl Smith, and John Gardner. I'm not going to give too much away of the story in case you haven't really read it. Well, all these brings a lot of memories, and you can tell too, which is the bonus pages, because the style changes quite drastically too, as much as I try to kind of at least ink it in the same style as the original pages. And of course, here I put some promotions for some of my other webcomics, a promotional flyer for Studio 22 webcomics, and of course, a final word there. You can definitely get that if you wish. A small disclaimer, I am also remaking this comic as well. So if you wish to wait until I actually finish the remake of this comic and buy it then, you can definitely do that. Or if you want to just buy it to either give support or because you genuinely kind of are curious about how this original comic is, you definitely can. This one is $2.50, the physical copy. It is a full comic size, as you just saw. But as always, the digital download is 99 cents. Also, if you want to give that a buy. And I just put the link in the comments as well to go and check that comic out. And now let's move on to the Webisodes. This was actually the last comic I printed, the last Warlord comic at least, that I printed through in the comic. Even though this story actually goes between the prologue and issue number 1, I printed out the Mighty Warlord book 1 webisode. It's called a webisode because it was just going to be an online exclusive. I had no plans of printing it. But for the free comic book day of 2010, I would like to say, I did print out a bunch of them just to give out for free. So that's pretty much it. That is the webisodes that were online on the Duck. I printed it out in black and white, as you can see here. It's on color in the webcomic. If you want to read the webcomic, this is going to be in color. So there was no special thing added. It's just literally that small side story that goes sandwiched between the prologue and chapter 1. Kind of fleshing out the characters a little more and also introducing the character Funny Bone. For some reason, there was no back cover and no inside back cover on this one. But this one, I believe the physical copy is available also. Let me double check that. Yes, there is a physical copy, which is $1.99. But if you want to download it, it's available for free actually on indiecomics.com, because I did put it as a free download because I intended this to be a free comic for Free Comic Book Day. So if you want to have a printed copy, it's $1.99. If you want the digital download, it's going to be a PDF. It's going to be exactly this in high resolution, and it's going to be for free. So you can definitely check that out. Download your free copy. You can also compare it if you wish to the webcomic, which was in color as well. As I mentioned before, all these webcomics are going to be available to read on the website as well. But in the meantime, let me just go ahead and put this in the comments for anyone that's interested in downloading the free copy of the webisodes. Give me just one brief second. I'm going to be right back. The laptop, the battery is starting to go a little too low for my taste. Let me just go ahead and connect that, and I'll be right back in 1 minute. All right, crisis averted. The laptop is now running on juice. So let's keep on going. This is the webisodes. Once again, it fleshes out a little more the main characters. It also introduces the character Funny Bone, which is an antagonist in that first story arc. And again, I'm not going to give too much spoilers if you haven't read it, but that's pretty much it in the gist of it. And here are the later 2 issues of Warlord that I published after the prologue, which of course is issue 1 and issue 2. There was going to be an issue 3, but unfortunately Warlord was the comic that suffered the most when I lost all the original artwork and all the digitized artwork as well. So I was halfway through doing issue number 3 to prepare to self-publish as well. When all those unfortunate things happened as well, I actually was able to do the cover, which is now one of the main covers I use for the webcomic chapter as the chapter cover. So here is issue number 1. This is the very first time I published issue number 1 as a physical comic. Again, Studio 22 webcomics logo there on the cover. I did a brand new cover for it as well. My artwork had changed quite a bit. I had been doing the webcomic for about 5 years at this point. So the art had evolved a lot from there. And as you can see, there's Fred Peterson as Warlord there in the background. There's in the foreground. You know, there's Funny Bone, who became one of the most popular characters in the story. There's Cheryl up here in the corner, top corner. Bottom left corner, there's Jane. And bottom right corner, there's John. This is actually one of my favorite covers I've done of Warlord, to be honest, because it features all 4 of the main characters. Funny Bone is there too. It's funny because there's only a handful of different covers for that first chapter, and none of them really resembles the original design I had in mind for that cover, for that comic. But I'm actually going to be doing something similar to the original design I had for issue number 1 for when I do the Truthful Comics edition of Warlord. So let's just flip a little bit through some of the pages here. Once again, Prospector Arts and Studio 22 webcomics presents that thing. And here it was pretty much what's on the webcomic, except that for like with the prologue, I added like 2 more bonus pages that weren't in the webcomic. And actually, I think to this day they're not in the webcomic either. So yeah. Some of them, for some reason, some of the pages came out a little blurrier than I intended. I think I may have probably sent a internet version by accident to Kablan, because usually it's all going to be like crisp and bright like you see here. Unless it's like an intentional blur like here where I blurred the background a little bit so the foreground can pop up a little more. Trying to do a bit of a cinematic style. Here's a promotion for the next comic. This is actually some fan art. And more promos for other comics, and of course the flyer for Studio 22 and my thoughts at the end. Let me just go ahead and put a link if you're interested in that one as well. Again, all these you can read them over at www.truthfulcomics.com. You can also go to webcomics.com. All my webcomics are there as well. That's pretty much where the small following that I have started at the Duck back when it was called Drunk Duck. Actually, Warlord and Nevermind are some of the oldest comics on the website at Drunk Duck or theduckwebcomics.com. I'll probably put a link to that site later on as well. So that was issue 1. And for issue 1, this is a full-size comic, full color. So that one is going to be $4.99. I'm sorry that says $4.75 on the cover. Back then, when I first originally printed it out, it actually was $4.75, but the price has changed. That was like 10 years ago or something like that. So 9 years ago. So the site is a little bit different. So I'll probably do a different cover to update that for 75. But on the website, it is $4.99 to purchase, and of course, 99 cents as a digital download. Now let's move on to issue number 2 of Warlord. Again, this is just publishing the second chapter. Here's like a brief um, recap of what happened in the previous issue. This is actually the original chapter cover for chapter 2, so it was pretty much similar, except that, again, the artwork had evolved since then. I did the Puerto Rican flag more prominently as well. And this time I did, as an actual part of the page, the title page of the chapter. This is one of my favorite chapters, actually, of those early stories in Warlord. Here we get the introduction to one of the main antagonists, Fat Fish, which is pretty much the crime boss of everything nasty going on in the island. Of course, Fred and Cheryl spend some time together. We see more of John's brother, Jeff. And some of the pages I actually redrew for this printed edition. Like this page here, I always hated how it came out originally. So I just remade this page entirely. And of course, here's Fred officially turning into Warlord for the first time. I actually got fan art for this panel, which was very cool back then, and it's still very cool now. Of course, everyone has to know Puerto Rico. No padre, sigue, sigue. Of course, there's the cliffhanger promotion for the next issue, which didn't come out. And this is actually a very rare art. I think I have it somewhere. I might post it online later on. This is a small thing I did for a shop that used to be in the local mall in the Bay. It was called the Mailbox Store. It was kind of like an internet cafe kind of thing, but they also had a post office service. And I was there all the time. Like the owners knew me and everything. Like they would set things up for me when they would see me approaching the store. Like they were very cool. So and sometimes they kind of gave me discounts because I was having internet problems back at home. And the funny story is, I went to a digital library. It was called a digital library because it was like the first library in my hometown where everything was just computers and you can access the internet and whatnot. And I would go there and try to update my webcomics because I couldn't at home because of the internet problems. And my comic was actually banned at that library online. It was like, oh wow, like that was like my first time that I ever faced censorship, which was kind of awesome at the same time. So I spent more time like, it's going to cost me money doing it at this place, but at least I'll have the peace of mind that I'll be able to reach out to the readers and I'll be able to post, the webcomic and whatnot. So I kind of did this thing for them and they actually printed it out. I put it in their store as well. I think they eventually used it as a flyer too. So that was just pretty cool. Right? There's Fred, Jay, John, and Cheryl. And of course, more promos for everything else. My final thoughts on this issue, there's issue number 2. That's the last of the Warlord related material that was printed back then. And let me just go ahead and put the link there in the comments. This is turning out to be a little longer than expected. It's kind of fun going through this kind of walk through memory lane because a lot of the stuff I really haven't flipped through in a long time. Okay, so that takes care of my portion of Truthful Comics of the stuff that I've published so far, slash the Studio 22 stuff, which eventually will be published as a Truthful Comics edition being completely redrawn. And when I say completely redrawn, it's going to be literally everything from scratch, like it's being redrawn, recolored, relettered, re-edited. So because I wanted to take the opportunity to fix some pacing issues and some errors I did in those earlier chapters. So I'm going to George Lucas it a little bit, I guess, more out of necessity than wanting to like improve upon it because I just wanted to improve upon it. You know, not for improvement's sake. It's because I legitimately had to do it from scratch anyway, so I might as well do it. So that will do it pretty much for me in that sense. And I just want to talk real quickly about Brother Manuel Carmona's Project New Wave. Boom. This is issue number 1 and issue number 2, also published through Kablam and also available through Indie Comics. I'm sorry, Indie Planet, but by Indie Comics because we are Indie Comics, support indie. Anyway, segue into that. These are comics only. You'll find like some snippets and previews and behind the scenes stuff on the Truthful Comics Facebook page and on blogs over at the Truthful Comics website as well. But it's mainly like a traditional comic in the sense that, you know, it's a comic first publication. It's not going to be a web comic, so you'll read it when you buy it, so to speak. And a lot of it has to do the story with New Wave kind of intertwines with Warlord because Manuel Carmona discovered my work through the forums where I would post Warlord and Nevermind, and he liked the way I was writing my comic. So he approached me to help him with his back then, also when he did that comic book festival in his hometown. Like he had done already issue number 1. He had some help have with the script, but he wanted my help to kind of help them with the dialogue and kind of like smooth some scenes out for that first issue. And he wanted me to help him with the script for the further issues because back then he had the artwork done, but he didn't have any dialogue. And he was kind of sorting out the pacing as well. So I helped him with that as well as writing new material for him as well, which is funny because issue number 2 is actually the first full script I did for him. Um, that was an original story that I wrote for his comic. It was supposed to be for issue number 5, actually, but he liked it so much that he went ahead and really wanted to draw that issue. So he bumped it up to issue number 2 instead, which is very cool. So in issue number 1, I have a credit, but I was not the writer. I pretty much helped him edit it. The colors were done by the tremendous Francisco Rivera. I will always say that he is an Image comic caliber colorist, bar none. He is one of the best in the industry right now. And Manuel Carmona's line art is so strong as it is. But when the two put their talents together, it's just pure magic, like you can see on these covers, man. I mean, just look, really look at those covers. And if you don't believe me, go to the Truthful Comics website, check out the New Wave blogs, check out all that artwork that's up there as well as like perhaps a better looking, better quality since it's going to be on the screen of the covers. And if you're still not convinced by then, Well, I don't know what else to say. Let me just show you some pages in that case. So here's just like a couple of pages of issue number 1. Again, like I love the quality of this paper, but it's a nightmare to try and show you how nice it looks with the glare of the lights on it. But I will learn as I do more of these to do this better. Like, let me not kind of jump around a bit, not show the whole thing, so you guys can have something to look forward to. I mean, just look at this page, man. Just really look at this page. Look at this page and tell me that this isn't something that you could see in a Marvel or DC comic, even. I know I may sound biased right now, but again, the quality of this comic is just truly astounding. Just look at this other page, too. This is just simply, to me, it's amazing. It's so cinematic as well. Again, I don't want to give too much away of it. So this is issue number 1 of Project New Wave. It is a group of teenagers that are government funded to do stuff that other people can't do, like the normal militia, the police. If it's like a super powered level threat, they're the ones that are called in to deal with it. Let me just go ahead and find Project New Wave here so I can share it with all you guys. Right, I put in the comments the link to issue number 1 of Project New Wave. And if you want the physical format of it, you can buy it for $3.99 on Indie Planet. As always, the digital download is 99 cents, so you can also buy it as a digital copy as well. If not, you can go to Facebook, to truthfulcomics.com, or to Instagram. You can find Manuela Carmona, and you can message him directly. I think he actually has some copies available with him, so he can also send it to you as well. So that's pretty much the story behind issue number 1, and here's issue number 2. As I stated before, this is my first full story. Again, I'm kind of seeing, I don't know if you guys can see me. Hold on. Yeah, I think this froze actually. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I am going to actually go off and go back on again.